Oh my god, I'm home alone. Unbelievable. Home alone, getting caught up on a pile of shit. What is it, Wednesday, I think? I think it's Wednesday. I have to make a decision if I'm going to go back to the coastal mountains, the old community of Pemberton, see some friends, possibly. Unfortunate death just came down in a circle of friends, or hit the ocean. Not sure yet. What have I got to do today? I got to get a lot of voices heard today. Got to fix the brake calipers on Sarah's vehicle. Got to finish the chicken, turkey, meat, bird coop before I go. Everything's coming to a head because end of the month I am out of here, and I will be all over the province. I don't know exactly where and when, but I do know one thing: I will be getting my dozen trail cameras back and reviewing those. I'll be sharing what I got from there, the real cool stuff, right away. And also be I will be hunting elk, and then after I get that done, helping a young friend of mine get his first elk, I'll possibly get one too. And then I am thinking I may go solo into the middle of the Rocky Mountains in the north, and I may go sheep hunting, possibly. That's my upcoming plans. Now, anyway, before I start babbling, a quick note on that video I shared yesterday, where I go, a little secret clam spot. I don't bring a shovel, I don't bring a rake, I don't bring anything. All you have to do is literally put your fingers in the dirt and scrape it across, and it's pure clams. It's so amazing. And so that is how I know nobody else has been in there. Also, you see that the leftover indentations from feet, even after the tide's flooded and gone out, you see a little bit of what's left. But the sun-bleached crust of the top of the bottom of the water, the gravel, it'll have that little bit of a corroded look to it. So when you turn up the crust, it reveals the brand new soil that was hidden underneath, not exposed to the sun, and it leaves a different color. And I can easily see all the little spots where I previously scraped out the bottom to reveal the clams from the other times we were there. And the last time I was there was maybe a week previous. So anyway, that's how I can tell there's been nobody in there at all. And over the years, I've never, ever seen anybody there, ever. Either even anchored out in front of the closest place to anchor up if you had a larger boat to try to get in there with a little dinghy or something. So that stick, wherever it came from, it was placed exactly right in the middle, right where we were sifting through for our clams. Interesting, right? It's not a first time for me something odd's been left blatantly in front of my face where people don't normally go. And the other places where I normally frequent, like especially in the coastal mountains where I really have to put a big effort to get to, and I have had trail cameras in all the access trails and pinch points, etc. And I've ran trail cameras in those mountains year-round for, I think, somewhere around 14 years. Never had a human being on my cameras once. And that as well for the other places where I go, for what I find what's been left for me intentionally, possibly. It's never been a human being. But anyway, I'm babbling on something kind of useless to talk about. Something jammed a stick in the mud for me to see. That's one thing I can share with you for certain. At least I got to share it with you. What was I going to share with you? I had to pick up Sarah from a medical clinic yesterday. Had a little thing going on with her eyeball or something. And she said that the rules for walking into the public medical clinic were you have to have a mask on to walk through the front door. Get this one. This is a medical clinic. This is supposed to be the people who are absolutely deathly afraid of any viruses or illnesses or transmitting anything and following the rules and taking part in implementing the rules to keep us healthy and safe. Right? The rules at the local medical clinic, you have to wear a mask to walk in the front door. Okay? And then you can go sit down in the waiting room and take it off. And when you go in to see the doctor, both the doctor and the new patient takes their masks off without any previous testing before you walk into that medical clinic. Okay, get this one. You're not being tested for any viruses at all. No concern at all whatsoever before walking into that public medical building where there could be people that could possibly have some adverse effects being exposed to a virus, right? It's amazing, isn't it? And she even said to the doctor, we're not supposed to wear a mask all the way through this. And the doctor looked at her and went, no. It's exactly how the doctor communicated with her with that attitude. It's amazing. People don't want to hear that though, right? To all the fragile little kittens out there, I apologize for being so harsh on your brain today. It must be so hard for you. Now, what else? Quick little heads up for a little bit of knowledge for the people who love knowledge. I just had some friends come home the other day. They've been gone for 3 weeks. One of my friends grew up in Belfast. He's got some crazy ass stories. And they're gone for 3 weeks, him and his wife and their little daughter. They're also in Britain for a little while. And what he said, I said, well, so what's the big difference back home? What's going on? What he shared with me was, and he also has a degree in psychology. But anyways, what he shared with me was that many businesses are closed still due to the COVID thing. But unfortunately, many businesses are remaining closed because the majority of the young people who received handouts of money during the COVID shutdowns have an attitude of not wanting to go to work. What's up with that? And then he also said that they took note that it was more prevalent in the United Kingdom, in Britain, where the young people just did not really want to work due to them being conditioned with their previous financial handouts. So that made my brain go, hey, wait a minute, wasn't there a big rumor going about universal income? Right? So let's just say, I haven't a clue myself, let's just entertain this as a little fantasy thought. Let's just say the dirty, filthy pricks who are controlling the masses currently wanted to bring in universal income. Who are they going to prey on first to get them conditioned? The children, right? If you want to change anything on the planet today, you have to go at the children. That's how you change it. That's how you make change. And that sure kind of fits, doesn't it? They gave all the younger generation a whole shit pile of handouts during the COVID shutdown, and now that generation of young people on average don't really want to work. Interesting. But there you go. There's the report, direct report from Ireland and Britain about the majority of the younger generation don't really want to go back to work because they enjoyed the fruits of no labor for their handout of money during the COVID crackdown. Interesting. Thought I'd drop that for any of you who are looking into all that shit. Now, let's get some voices heard. Actually, I got a letter today from one of our caring individuals in the academic field whose partners are sharing some information with him, and there's a whole bunch of sleuths online that are talking about this. My name's coming up, their name's coming up, not the person's sharing because we kept that identity secret. But that person is now getting cold feet because of some of the articles, some of the exchanges online and on social media that he's read, where my name and Edgar's name and other shares of what we talk about have been coming up in these researcher groups, forums and shit. So what I am saying to anybody out there who's listening to us, in which I replied back to them to pass off to that scientist, was the majority of anyone who labels themselves as a Bigfoot researcher probably doesn't like me. I have zero contact with the Bigfoot Sasquatch community. I have zero contact with anyone in the so-called community. I'm not a member. And although probably 99.9% of them can't stand me, 110% of them are here watching these videos. And all of them like to rant and goop and gossip online. But what I'm surprised to take it back is the amount of people that I know who are very intelligent, who just can't stay away from reading comment sections under their own videos or reading topics on social media pages, and they can't stop themselves, and it affects them mentally. And it surprises me because I keep these people in such high regard of being so intelligent. I would think that at the same time they're smart enough to just ignore that shit. Like, just ignore that shit. Seriously. So, to the people who are sharing information through me, and now you're getting cold feet about something because of something you read online somewhere else, give your head a shake. Just don't read it. All right? Just don't read it. All right. That might make sense for some, but probably not much to others. And that's fine. The people who I wanted to relay that to, you know who you are and what I'm talking about. Consider the source. Never fear. Don't fear them. I don't know how. I wish maybe I should go get a hold of Tony Robbins. I actually got invited to go to a barbecue in Vancouver where that guy, he was, the woman that he fooled around on his wife with, and he's with currently, is a friend of a girl I went to school with. And she invited me to a barbecue to come down there and meet him. I'm like, what for? What for? He's not my type of people. But maybe I should contact him or somebody similar to him so I can better my methods of sharing encouragement with people. Because sometimes I think I'm just failing when it comes to encouraging people. Because I wish I could encourage every single human being that ever come across my ugly mug online. I wish I could just encourage everyone to quit fearing. Drop fear. And make a t-shirt or something that says, drop fear. Can you imagine if everyone had zero fear of each other, zero fear of ridicule, the great conversation that could be had, the knowledge that would be shared? Wouldn't it be amazing? The people that we would be able to rally up to make decisions. Imagine the quality of those people, the quality of people we could have in those positions if everyone didn't have fear, right? I don't know. I need to work on my delivery to convince everyone to quit fearing. Maybe there's a course I could take somewhere. Anybody know of a course somewhere I can take? Besides what the government gives to new people that enter the government on how to manipulate. I'm not interested in manipulating, but I'm interested in creating an army of people that don't fear. Do not fear anyone or anything and speak freely. There's my babble. That's my rant. This is titled Letter About Your YouTube Show. All right. Who knows if this is going to be good or bad. Hello, Steve. I recently discovered your program on YouTube. First, I'd like to say thank you for doing the job that needs to be done. I was especially delighted with the information passed on by who you call the Owl Man. 5 stars. Excuse me. Also, the program or letter you received from a scientific investigator that talked about the Ancient One's ability to see things in total darkness at a distance of 1.5 miles. If you remember that email letter. Damn right I do. Apparently, he was investigating the old ones interested in the ICBM missiles and how they shut them off and the military personnel were unable to restore them for 18 hours. That statement gives me hope that we as a country won't destroy ourselves, or we as a people, because there's a lot of crazy people in this world, as you already know. But before I ramble on, let me say a little about myself. My name is Bruce, and I live in Southern Oregon. I moved here in '74. I'm 50% service-connected Vietnam veteran with PTSD. I was with Task Force 116, called Game Warden, which consisted of river patrol boats. The Brown Water Navy, from April '66 to '67, I was the lead mechanic that maintained the combat readiness of River Section 531 at a My Tho in the Delta. I personally had no knowledge of my behavior after returning, but I too disconnected to everyone I knew in Vietnam. As I've said, I had no knowledge of that, it just happened. I'm only saying that because you, on one of your programs, indicated that you have wondered why people did that. Although I did do that, I can honestly say why, but that's not what this letter is about. I can't honestly say why, but that's not what this letter is about. It's about the investigation of the hairy man. I myself have never seen, smelled, or in any way had an experience with the big ones, but I would never say that they don't exist because I myself haven't seen one. My wife and I recently purchased an 80-acre parcel 5 miles up a logging road. These examples are what we have experienced in our newly acquired land. Trees were broken off at about 6 foot above the base and lying across the trail. I'd heard of this on TV shows about the big ones. The next oddities was when my wife called our valley home and asked me to come up to the property to observe a deer that was behaving oddly. My wife's son drove me up to find out what was going on. When we got there, we found a deer, a young doe that appeared to have broken front legs. It couldn't pick itself up and flopped around on the ground using its rear legs. We didn't know what to do, so we tried to calm it by throwing a blanket over top of it and then holding it down. Upon investigation of its legs, nothing could be found. They weren't broken at all or damaged that I could see. It was quite odd. We had a fenced off area, so we have kids outside and feel safe. We had a fenced off area, so we could have kids outside and feel safe. And they wouldn't get lost in the woods. We put the deer in the kids area and left it for the night, thinking it might recover from what had happened to it. The next day, it was still in the same condition, and it couldn't walk, couldn't get up, and couldn't function in a normal way. My stepson didn't want it to suffer and brought it back to where we originally found it on the ground. He stayed with it. I don't know what his prayer was, but he stayed with it for an hour or so in a prayerful way. Then he shot it in the head with a .22. Then he let it lie where it did until the next morning, when we intended to carry it into the woods and put it to rest. But in the morning it was gone, totally gone. No signs of it having been there or having been removed. No drag marks, no footprints, nothing. It was gone. And that was strange. The next strangeness that happened was with my wife's beehives. She has 2 of them. One of them was knocked over and the top was off of the box, and it appeared that something had reached in the box and took a handful of honey, but the hive was left alone except for the handful of the hive and its honey. We do have a bear and its cub on the land, and we had seen, but felt as if it wasn't involved because it wasn't all taken or ruined, as a bear would get into the whole thing, in our opinion, and not just take a handful. The second hive was untouched, yet it was right next to the first one. The next oddity that happened on the land was when my wife and her girlfriend bought 2 bales of straw as a backdrop for learning how to shoot her bow and arrow at a target. Upon taking a new bow and arrow kit to the target area, the bales of straw were both gone, and only a small amount of straw was left on the ground. There was a small trickling of straw leading into the woods. I didn't personally follow the straw trail, but my wife's girlfriend's boyfriend followed a straw trail into the woods where he discovered one of the bales had been spread out on the ground as if to be a bed. The other was not there. And he felt as if he shouldn't follow the trail any further and come back out into the opening where the bales had originally been, but he too felt as if a Bigfoot or the old ones had taken them. As I watch your programming, I choose to recognize them as the original Native Americans, and I'm trying not to call them a Bigfoot, as I've been programmed to do. The last and most recent goings-on was a whistle heard by my wife and her girlfriend while they're on the land clearing the ceremonial grounds. She doesn't know how to whistle, so she did her imitation of one that her son and she shared with each other, which was "Macaw, macaw." That was their private I'm here with each other when they were hiking in the bush. So she did that, and it returned with its whistle that she had never heard other than this time. Then she did her call one more time, and it was returned with the same whistle. We follow Native American tradition and have a different view than the average white guy, so my wife believes that the Bigfoot has come to do ceremony with us and is one of our relatives. It's funny how life can lead you to a new knowledge of an old way of thinking. I'd always believed I was a French Canadian. My father was born in Canada, and our name is French, and I do have a little French in me. But after doing a DNA test, I found that I was mostly Irish and Scandinavian, and not French, as I believed. The reason I'm saying this is because I've recently discovered through a mtDNA study that we're all one people, and that everyone's mtDNA leads back to one original grandmother, and she's from South Africa. This information can be looked up and verified as the truth. And on another note, in the ancient story of Gilgamesh, they speak of the big hairy man. Its history is ancient and was here long before Homo sapiens. Now, the truth that's been hidden from the average person in America is the truth about the giants that lived here one time. The why is this covered up by the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C.? They have received bones and hidden them from the public. This, too, is a fact, not a fictional story. My question is, why? Just a couple questions to add to our misconception of reality that we live in. I'd love to tell the things that I have learned since coming to Oregon in '74 and the walk that I've learned them on. But that would take a long time to tell. And as you said once on one of the programs, this isn't about me, this is about us, the people that have been lied to our whole lives. Wake up, America, you're dreaming. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate your efforts to spread the truth. Bruce and Catherine, 2 white people on the red road. We're all one people. Yes, we are. Now, here's a thought when you said about taking the DNA test. You know, everybody was jumping on the DNA ancestral thing online. When am I going to do that? Nope. No, I'm not. Because, it's kind of like this. For me, I'll never preach this on anyone. I'm just trying to find the numbered emails I had here. I numbered a bunch in consecutive, so I can keep reading them. Here we go. Here's the next one. I do not fill out online petitions. Was that change.org and other shit? Why? Because I've never seen any evidence of those petitions doing anything ever. And it's unlimited. They want anyone who's grumpy or pulling a frickin' snap sandwich one day to go on and make a online petition, an email it to all your friends to get everybody on there. And for me, now that I've learned what I have to date, and I'm learning more every day, is the fact that anyone who collects email addresses, it's like collecting money. And those email addresses are worth a shit pile of money. And they sell them. That's what they're doing with those on average. Now, all of a sudden you got this fun place online that wants your DNA. We're going to tell you where your blood's coming from. You don't have a frickin' clue who those people are. Period. You don't even know if those are actual scientists or doctors or lab techs. You don't know. Do you? Who are these people that you're sending your DNA into? Right? At this day and age, for the bullshit they're pulling on the people, I think that sending your DNA in anywhere is a very, very poor choice. That's just what I'm thinking. Am I shitting on anyone who's done it in the past? No, of course not. I'm learning. And the thought, if I entertain the thought of sending my DNA into anyone, anywhere at this point of the game, a huge red flag goes off in my guts that screams, don't do it. Right? It's fun though. You got lots of celebrities have done it and everybody's doing it. It's kind of like when everybody first went on Facebook. A lot of people are too insecure to, but people are doing it. Well, I'm going to too. Next thing you know, it's mainstream and it's fun. Well, now they use Facebook as a weapon against free speech. Using Facebook as a weapon against the people. So, what's going to happen with all that DNA that all those celebrities and influencers made so fun to send your DNA into to get your results back? Whether or not those results are accurate or not, who frickin' knows? And who gives a shit? You look to your family. You can go back to your family for all that on average, right? Not everybody, I know not everyone. But I'm telling you right now, if I had to bet, if I had $100 right now to place on a bet, would I bet that DNA being accumulated is going to a not so good place? I would probably bet $99.99 at $100, saying it's not a good move. It's just me. It's something for you guys to think about. Right. Anyway, thanks for that email, man. Absolutely appreciate your time. You know what's going on around your property, so do we. Taking the straw and making a bed in plain sight of your place, that's a new one. Unless they just got there, right? Unless these beings just got there and didn't figure out where they're going to go yet and needed something to lay on. This has no subjects. Title this one. Dear Steve, my name is Lori. I was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky, right down the road from Fort Knox. I've been following you for a couple of years now, and I want to tell you about my experiences that started last year. I live right next to a very long waterway / stream, and it's surrounded by trees on both sides. But you could always see through these wooded sides of the stream until last year. I noticed how much this tree-lined stream had grown so thick I couldn't see through it all, and how I thought at first I was just seeing things inside these woods running and swinging through the air like maybe in jungles. How you see on TV how monkeys swing vine to vine. Now I'm just going to tell you, I could never see this activity looking straight at it, but I was always in my side vision. your peripheral. As soon as I turned my eyes towards the movement, there would be absolutely nothing. Therefore, I chalked it up to my allergies, and I may need something stronger than my reading glasses. There was a strange feeling that I was starting to get every time I walked out of my door. I felt like there was someone maybe living in the woods that lined the waterway, and I had not even thought ever of a cryptid, not even once. So I decided to take a look inside the woods, and I almost had a heart attack, because this little wooded area was now like a real jungle, with all kinds of thick vines hanging all over, and so many limbs from the trees and sticks that looked as if something was trying to make some type of huts and crazy weird structures all along that stream. It kind of looked like a bunch of kindergarten kids had gotten in there and tried to build a town with sticks and limbs. When I immediately got the sense of a horrible danger all around me, my head started pounding and extreme nausea. I walked back home, laid down, and was so weak I didn't get back up until the next day. Around a week later, I started putting all my pictures of the wooded stream in a folder on my Google Pics to organize my pictures. I noticed that there was one that I couldn't believe what I was looking at. Steve, it was a standing upright dog. It was at least 7 to 8 feet tall, with what looks like it just had puppies, because you could see where it looked as if she had been nursing. Then I swear, Steve, it looked like it had a gold nose ring. The closest thing I can compare it to was an Anubis. And I had some compelling pictures and were saving and putting them in here in their own folder I marked research. Then about a month later, I was up early and going to breakfast. It was March of 2021 at around 6:45 a.m. The sun was just coming up when, after my third step outside going to get in my car, I was almost like paralyzed. And I felt really flushed, hot, from head to toe when I heard something or someone say in another voice inside my head, definitely not mine, say, look over here. I'm here, look. I looked over to the wood stream, and I swear, Steve, I seen a gigantic man's chest and arms, and then I seen the head. It was kind of coned, but I couldn't see his face because of the bright sun directly behind his humongous head, where I could only see the outline, but I could see his chest and torso clear as a bell. He was white-skinned, with barely a tint of tan, hairless skin. He was white-skinned, with barely a tint of a tan, hairless skin, no hair on the part of this giant that I could see, but I could have sworn I seen a thick, wide gold or brass cuff bracelet on his left wrist. It almost looked like he had a mist or fog around his head area that really freaked me out, because I thought for a second it was flies, and it was also blocking his face along with the bright sun backdrop. I also realized he was standing right next to where the dog giant stood in my pictures, and this thing was way taller than the giant dog. He was around 12 to 13 feet. I blinked thinking it would be gone, but I looked, and he was still there, which I could feel my heart beat through my ears. And Steve, even though I couldn't make out his face, I knew he was smiling. I immediately felt almost violated by him just looking at me. And I blinked again, and he was gone, like he faded in the trees behind him. I started walking again to my car and was kind of in a daze, and I almost felt stoned or half drunk. I even had to pull over and smack my cheeks to wake the hell up. I was completely drained of energy, went back home and set the food on the counter and went straight back to bed and slept sound until late afternoon, which that itself was very odd, since I woke up and ready to start my day just a little bit ago. I woke up and told my boyfriend about my encounter, and he tried to sound like he believed me, but it was when he told me I probably shouldn't tell anyone or talk about it no more that I knew how he really felt about my encounter. I became obsessed with cryptids. I had some really strange pictures. With some of the craziest looking creatures. Kept them in the folder on my Google app. When around 2 months ago I was writing you this email, when I didn't get to finish because it was so late, I saved it, fell asleep the very next day. I was going to finish up the email, and Steve, I was locked out of my Google account. And I kept saying I changed my password. Bullshit, because I never, ever changed my password. So, I knew I only ever used 2 passwords since I have had an account with Google. I gradually got some of my Google apps back to where I noticed I finally got everything back except my photos and Gmail. Now I know for sure something way bigger than the government was making sure I don't get my information and pics out there. The only good thing to come out of this is I'm a member of the Club of No Return with the rest of the good, honest, hardworking people. Thanks for all you're doing and done. Stay safe out there and God bless. All right. That's an interesting email. Now, unless I read it wrong, you can see all this shit along the creek. Maybe, possibly, because I'm sure there's going to be a shit pile of people here curious. Take your camera, go take a picture of all those things along there and share it up. You know? Share it up. Or if something else happens in the future and you think it might help somebody, then email it in to me and I'll get it shared. I'll be your messenger, all right? Be safe. That's hell of a something to see, isn't it? There's another one. From South Africa, Limpopo, Bigfoot. I wonder if you read this. We're going to find out. Hi there from South Africa. So all this started years ago. My mother was 15 at the time when she first encountered it. She was at the Doorn Dray Dam in the Limpopo province of South Africa. The older black people in the region talk about the ape man in the mountains, Bigfoot. Please remember that our town, Naboomspruit, as well as the dam, is close to the Waterberg mountain range. The dam wall is settled between 2 peaks, and it was on this dam wall where she had heard a strange barking call behind her, scaring the shit out of her, and still believe to this day that it must have laughed its ass off. Years later, when I was about 17, we were on our way back into town from the ranch late at night. While driving the car, headlights on bright, we saw a humanoid hairy something about 8 to 10 feet tall run in front of the car. It was at least 10 meters from the car. It had reddish brown hair and stood in the middle of the road watching us for a few seconds before walking away and jumping across the fence. Idiots that we are. Don't freak out and run away, but always run towards whatever we see to investigate. This is our encounter. We constantly hear strange howling / barking calling sounds at night. Sometimes far from town, sometimes close to town. Thanks for the opportunity to share experience. Stay safe. Frida and Marinelle de Beer. All right, Frida. Throw down a recorder outside and record that shit. If you can get recorders that go all night long, I think. And if you want to, or if you feel compelled, the next time you're around some people in your community, ask around to what people have seen and know. And I'll guarantee you won't be the only one that's experienced things around there. And somebody might have more of a clear story to tell you. Thanks again. New Jersey Pine Barrens is the title of this one. Still close, sir, but following your channel for years now. I know it's been said countless times already, but I find your no bullshit personality refreshing. Thank you for that. Thanks for the kind words. My experience took place in the heart of the Wharton State Forest of southern New Jersey around 95 in late October. I was 17 and bow hunting with my father. He was also a no BS kind of man who retired from the Army and the local police department. I was brought up in the woods hunting, fishing, camping, canoeing, you name it. I started bow hunting at age 10 and took my first deer at 12. My father and I were set up in a remote area of the forest. It was an area that years before was hit hard by a forest fire. The grounds were very open and the trees were only about 8 to 10 feet tall and very spread out. There were, however, a few pine trees that survived the fire that were full-size mature pines. We had our hang-on stands, and 2 of these mature trees are around 25 feet off the ground. This is important because when up in these stands, you can see everything. The ground all around you for a couple hundred yards and all over the shorter trees for miles. It was an afternoon hunt. We climbed into our stands about 3 hours before sunset. My father was positioned 100 yards behind me facing west. This is sounding familiar. If I turned around to my stand, I could clearly see him. I was facing north. It was an uneventful afternoon until about 1 hour before dark. It was then that I heard what I thought at the time was a deer snorting behind me. I slowly stood, turned around, could not see anything there. And like I said, the ground all around us was open. It was not like a normal deer snort, though. It was repeated almost like a heavy breathing over and over. And it was snorting and moving from east to west right towards my father, who I could see sitting very still in a stand. It went right up to him, and the sound stopped. I never seen anything there, and was confused on what happened. I then turned back around and sat down. A few moments later, I heard it start up again, even louder, right where it had stopped. But this time, before I could even turn around, it sounded like it was in my tree, directly behind my head. I was unable to move, possibly out of fear. I really don't know how to describe what happened next. It was like mind speak, but not with words. But I unmistakably understood exactly what it was telling me. It said, "You were like a tiny ant to me, and with barely any effort, I can wipe you from existence." Okay, I've read this, but I'm so far in, we're going to finish it. In my mind, it was like I surrendered to it, and just like that, it was gone. I was still frozen with fear for several minutes after. Then, as soon as I could muster up the strength, I climbed down from my stand. There was still hunting light left, and under normal circumstances, this was a no-no to get down early. My dad would let me have it. I walked to his tree, and he was getting to the ground. He turned and looked at me and didn't speak. I said to him, "What was that? What just happened?" He replied to me and said, "Oh, good, you heard it too. I'm not crazy. Let's go now." We hiked back to the truck and without speaking, put our equipment away and started driving. About halfway out to the paved roads, he turned and told me that we couldn't tell anyone about what we experienced. If we did, they'd think we were whack jobs. And part of being a man is no BS honesty, and we could lose credibility by sharing the story. Shortly before we arrived home, he said we could tell Mom, but no one else. When we got home, Mom was putting dinner on the table. We shared our experiences. And my father said it told him the same thing it told me. For years, I kept this experience to myself. I lost my father to cancer this past Christmas and thought that maybe by sharing the story, I could help someone else. Perhaps make them realize that if they experience something similar, that they are not crazy or alone. Thank you for what you do, sir, and let me know when you're getting the good army together. I'm in. Sincerely, Jay Stetzer. P.S. I'm on my way out the door now to go shed hunting. I hope you got some. I know I read that before, and I don't feel bad at all for reading it again. And I might even read it again in a few months. Who knows? Guarantee it won't hurt anybody if I do. What else? The part about being a no BS man with integrity and honesty and being scared to have that affected by sharing what you know. Well, the only way to do it, I explained that a couple of videos ago, is you look whoever's in the crowd in the eye, doesn't matter who it is or how many they are, and you say flat out, "You really think I asked to see that? Do you really think that I asked for that experience? And do you think that you're big enough to laugh me into changing that honest truth? Really? Is that what you really think? Do you really think I woke up this morning wondering how I could get more attention out of you? Really? That's how you do it." And then you carry on with honestly sharing your experience. This is what I saw. This is what I heard. Take it or leave it. Ram it up your ass or not. I don't give a shit. I didn't ask for that experience. And that's how you deliver it to the masses if you feel a little insecure of sharing what you saw or what you felt or heard. That's how you do it. How do you argue with that? Right? There's nothing funny about that delivery. Right? Doesn't offer up anything to smile about. And it does offer up as well as if you carry yourself that way and somebody still feels that they want to shit on you, they're probably going to be getting ready to get it on then, right? And I'm pretty certain nobody really wants to do that. Right? Now, this is from someone who's shared with us in the past. This is the man that had that Sasquatch looking back at him, quote, through his rifle scope as it was going down the Alpine Basin scree slope near Goldbridge, British Columbia. Listen to this. This is titled Lucky Lake, Tolcourt, Maine. Hey Steve, hope you had a good winter and successful hunting season. I've got to share this experience my wife and I had 2 weeks ago at a little hike in lake out by Tolcourt. This gem is kind of my secret fishing hole. It's blank lake. Oh, I'm not going to say the lake name then, man. off the Tokort Main, and the road has now been badly deactivated. So even the side-by-side can't make it in there. It's a 3-kilometer hike to the lake, and there are 5 to 8 pound rainbows in there, and they take the fly. No shit, that sounds like a fun place. Incredible, beautiful, majestic lake. Anyways, man, I took my wife in there for the first time, and as we were walking the trail down to the lake from the old road, we heard a terribly loud banging noise. It repeated very quickly for 8 times. It sounded very much like those big northern BC bull moose when they whack trees during the rut. You know that sound as well as I do. Anyways, the noise was coming from our side of the lake and not far from where we were, maybe 100, 150 yards down the trail. That sucks. We stopped dead in our tracks, although I was carrying my trusted 300 Win Mag in case of a bear. I felt effing defenseless and vulnerable as hell. My wife, who hikes a lot with me, said, "What the hell is that?" I said, "Well, I know what it wasn't. It wasn't no damn bull moose, and it wasn't a bear." I said, "Let's come back another day." And she agreed, but continued to ask me what that was. I told her what I thought it was. One of those bastards was there and didn't want us to continue to the lake. She wasn't very impressed and made a short work of the 3 kilometers back to the side-by-side. I'm not done, dude. Last weekend I went back to the lake by myself because if I'm going to die, I want to die in the woods. And I wanted some more big rainbows. So this time, as I walked the trail to the lake, not a sound. I get the canoe dragged to the water, put my gun on the boat, my fly rod, and I'm off fishing for the day. Well, I'm 100 yards from the shore, paddling away while dragging a fly. What do I hear on the opposite side of the lake but bang, 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 bang. Same effing deafening loud bang 6 times, very close together. You could swing a baseball bat that was fast and you could swing a baseball bat that fast on a tree. No way. I stop paddling and listen, and it does 3 more bangs and then all quiet. I was a little on edge, I must admit. The 300 was loaded beside me. I fished for the day, headed out, but I was watching my back the entire way out. Those effers are on the West Coast, dude. I've had a cabin in Salmon Beach for 15 years, and I've hiked and hunted all around Torcourt and Kennedy Lake, and this is the first time I've seen any sign of them. Anyways, pal, take care, stay safe. We now live pretty close to each other. Maybe one day we can share a campfire and a beer and share theories. I think shit's gonna hit the fan here soon, and everyone's gonna know the truth. Talk soon, Steve. Keep it well, man. All right, thanks, Darren. The native people community out there, the word in the street is from other native people I've met and befriended around here is they've had relatives there that say flat out, it's almost nightly on the road from the lake. You know, you hang left at Kennedy Lake and drive in there. They basically say they see them almost routinely on that road at nighttime coming home and around the community all around there. I have another guy that lives in Ukilit who wrote in, I don't know how many, I forget how many experiences they had all around there. That first lake on the right, when you leave the pavement going towards the ocean, there's that first lake on the right in there, and it looks like there's an older home in the back, what would be the northwest side of that lake. He's had a lot of experiences right around that lake as well. Kennedy Lake, that stretch of highway between Ukilit and my place right here, shit piles of sightings crossing the highway. The houseboats, the houseboat thing in Sprout Lake, people on houseboats hearing the screams and the calls going from mountains on one side of the lake to the mountains on the other side of the highway in the middle of the night. It's endless. The shit that goes on around here when I'm videotaping for this channel, it's endless. Where else? Kildonan, shit piles of experiences there. Namint, shit piles there. They all tie into basically that area you just mentioned now, right? So there you go. But like we already know, if they're making that noise for you, they're not going to kill you. They would have killed you. You're not going to give anybody that warning, right? You're not going to go, hey, there's a human being. I'm going to hunt it. I'm going to stealthily hunt that human over there. Let me beat on this tree here first 500 yards away. Said no successful predator ever, right? Anyway, this is titled Sighting Shapeshift. I copied and pasted a comment from Neil Anderson on a YouTube video, scared shitless in Australia, and numerous other Sasquatch encounter emails. Alright? It was well written and is clear. I added some punctuation to aid reading. It's particularly interesting as it describes a visual shapeshift, but an imperfect one, yet successful. As at the time, it left the viewer questioning what they saw. YouTube name, Neo Anderson. Oh, good. Here, I gotta get shit off my face. Okay, I own 15.2 acres in southern New Hampshire, very much like suburbia here now since the last 20 years. And we rarely walked out back there since I purchased the property over 20 years ago. It's very wild and overgrown. A few years ago, I adopted a dog off Craigslist who hates everyone, so lacking him is a challenge on a road. So I hired someone to clear a path to the back of my property so I could walk my dog with less stress for him, me, and the neighbors. As long as it is not a very wet season, I can walk my dog all the way back to the very end of my property. It's challenging terrain, but after all the wet spots, it is a rather nice walk. And I'm never really comfortable walking the woods, so I'm always hyper-vigilant. We do have bears, coyotes, foxes, possum, porcupines, bobcats, deer, moose, and hunters that stray on my property. And my dog, when we were back there, I let him have the whole 12 feet of leash. So, one nice crisp fall, I'm walking my dog Moo on his trail. I see the rock I like to sit on for a rest, but someone else is sitting on it. A large man in what looks like a long, hairy, reddish coat. I only ever see the back. I see a large oval head shape. Again, I'm still thinking a coat. He's wide at the shoulders and the body about the same width down to where he's seated. And he is tall, even in a seated position. I thought it was weird, hunting garb, but I thought I do not know all the latest hunting gear. I was going to turn back, but I thought I would just catch his attention and make some noise to see what type of reception I got. Keeping my eyes on him the whole time, clearing my throat, he is briefly out of my sight as I pass by a tree trunk. When I could see him again, it is now a red fox laying flat on top of and against the rock. It looks like the fox is hugging the rock with all four limbs. I've never seen a fox do that. I stopped and stared at the fox to see what its intention was, I stopped and stared at the fox to see what its intention was, and still trying to figure out what happened to the large man, and maybe what I saw was just a fox before I passed the tree, and it was some type of optical illusion. The fox ran away in the direction the man was looking before it was a fox. I did go over to investigate where the man went after the fox left. The rock kind of overlooks a huge crater-like indentation in the earth. So yeah, I was kind of expecting to see the man walking down there. Nope, nothing. Chicken fight on the porch. Off and on, I think about that incident, and I'm convinced that what I saw was a man or man-like creature. Why else would I think it was a man in a fur-like coat? I doubt a fox would look like a large man sitting on a rock, no matter what angle I viewed it at. My dog did not react, but he never reacts with large animals like bears. He does go nuts over strangers and foxes, but anything large like a bear, he keeps very quiet and hides behind my legs, like he did that day. This was daylight. Well, as daylight a wooded area can be, wooded areas always seem darker to me. I must say, since that incident, I've not been too eager to walk down that way. Not that my sweet little crazy dog, now that my sweet little crazy dog has passed, I doubt I'll ever walk out there again by myself. Actually, let me get that off my mind. I cannot find your address to send this, so writing here. Neo Anderson. All right. Thanks for the person who copied and sent that. Thanks for Neo for being brave and sharing that. And you guys, if you guys have been following every single one of these videos, just not too long ago, we had someone from the United Kingdom write in about being near a quarry where nobody's supposed to be, looked up, saw a figure at the edge of the quarry. They yelled at him, went up there and over the edge, and there was a fox laying there. Go figure. So, we had that reported in from New Hampshire, and we've also had the exact same similar reported in from United Kingdom. What's up with that? Okay. What's up with that? All right. What else do we have? We have something. This is kind of weird. All right. What's this? This is titled F. He is real. Obviously, it's titled with the 4-letter word, full F-bomb word. He is real. Excuse me. Hey, Steve. Been watching your videos a little over a year now. I love hearing stories about the Bigfoot. Growing up in a completely outdoors family, me and my grandparents and my great aunt would always joke about Bigfoot. My grandma and great aunt both believed in Bigfoot. Little did I know my grandmother and great aunt had an experience of their own. I didn't find out about until later in life. When I was reading her mining journal, she kept an experience, the Los Angeles National Forest gold mining. They never really talked about it. Unfortunately, I didn't find out after she had passed. Probably meant you didn't find out until after she passed. As for me, I never really believed. I always said it would be cool if it was real, but after years of hunting and gold mining and camping and hiking, I never seen no evidence until July 2021. I was camping in Plumas National Forest by myself with my Labrador, Big Hoss, who I just put down 2 weeks ago. Oh, that sucks. Sorry to hear that. I knew this was going to be the Hoss's last trip. So I took him someplace special to me and him. They're all gold claim. We going to do the same spot okay, there's a few typos. We went to the same spot for 20 years. Never had an issue, never seen nothing but bears and deer. And always at least 1-2 bears each trip. This trip started out different. It was just kind of quiet when we got there. I got camp set up, shut up the back of my Bronco for me and Haas to sleep in, mind you, with no top on the Bronco. Uh-oh. Now you're like you're in a human cereal bowl. For the first night, we got there a little late. So by the time I got to camp, set up dinner, done, it was probably about 10 o'clock at night. By the time I got to actually sit down and relax around the campfire, it was going out. I got to get some more wood, at which point I felt the thud beside my foot. I looked down, tonight, seen her quartz rock outside of a softball. What? And I looked down, tonight, must have been to the right, seen her quartz rock outside of a softball. Alright, so thank you much have meant I looked down to the right and seen a quartz rock the size of a softball. Which I know all the quartz rocks in camp I'd already gathered up and put by the campfire for me to inspect. They were there from the last trip we brought into camp. And then out of the blue I had a fear go through my body that damn near made me pee all over myself. And the next thing I was doing, I was trying to plead my case of why I was there and that I was no harm. And a voice that was crackly because I'm so damn scared. Which I still haven't figured out why I was so scared. Still in between two together. It was Bigfoot. Alright, sorry you guys. It's kind of, which I still haven't figured out why I was so scared. I put 2 and 2 together. It was Bigfoot. But there is something about him. It's almost like he can talk to you through your head. And I pleaded my case, and there was nothing more. That was the end of that. We stayed for 4 days, which at the time I didn't realize in those 4 days we hadn't seen a bear. There's no bear scat in the middle of the road. Work for 20 years, there's always a pile of bear scat in the middle of the road, right out of camp. There was no wildlife at all. It was real quiet. And on the 4th day, we were packing up, getting ready to go slowly, no rush. I started hearing a wolfing sound like a dog barking almost in a distance. And that's about 20 minutes. Hearing it, it's not a dog. I'm 25 miles into the woods. But as it has a dog going to come from its middle of the week, there's no people around at all. That's when the second battle of fear came over my body like a rush of adrenaline. So I grabbed my shotgun, got Haas in the Bronco, looked over across the creek, and that's when I spotted it. Only half of them hiding, the other half was hiding behind a tree. And just when I seen him, I said, "Oh, it's you." And all the fear was gone. There was no more fear in my body at all. I was at ease. I just see the silhouette of them. I couldn't see his face. I looked back over after I looked at Haas, and he was gone, and I don't know how. But you know that the fear comes over your body when you get close to one of these creatures is unbelievable. I've stood off wild horses, bears, been stuck by a mountain lion in many fights. Instead of this day, I've never felt the fear so damn deep in my body as I did that night and that day. If I had been a hunter, I don't think I would have recognized that it was something standing beside the tree. You blended in real good. The only reason I seen him is because of this outline, which is highlighted by his hair at first. I thought of bear. Nope, not a bear, bipedal. Anyways, I want to run around too long. But surely believe now. Thanks, Steve, for what you do in the community, and happy hunting, Chris Kaufman. P.S. I included some pictures we found on Google Earth. Take what you want with it, but it's halfway between Quincy, California, and my old gold claim. I can't argue the shape. My son can't argue it. Made my son a believer in my story. Well, that's a little different, isn't it? Holy shit, crazy. And if it looks like a shadow. One thing I do when I'm glassing or sculpting for big game is if I see something a little off-colored, we always compare it to all the similar colors around the whole thing. And it may look similar, it might not look similar, but that's definitely an odd shape that you found. Crazy. Hopefully I remember to include that in the video. A little bit of punctuation there made a little challenge, but we got the gist of it out. Thanks for sending that in, man. Be safe out there. Be safe. All right. One more. And then I'm going to get on with what I have to get done. More from Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Steve, lad, use my name, Steve Richards, as you see fit. Third time's a charm. After 2 posts referencing Camp Lejeune, home base for the 2nd Marine Division, one from a civilian taxi driver and the second from a Royal Marine whose unit was taking part in a joint US-UK exercise, an almost 7-year-old experience has been drawn from the back of my mind. My father was a career USMC officer and graduate of the US Naval Academy, and we were stationed at Lejeune on tours of duty twice during his career, prior to his deployment for the Korean conflict. At the following visual encounter at 4 to 5 years of age. My family assigned quarters along a street with a golf course. Okay, my family was assigned quarters along a street with a golf course and wooded area, mainly pine, with some oaks. One evening around 11 or 12, I was drawn to the front window. Staring across the street, I saw what I thought was a small, lightly colored bear cub standing on its hind legs, leaning against the neighbor's front door across the street. Their porch light was on, but I could only see the back of the creature reaching up with both its front appendages. I guesstimate it was 4 feet tall from its feet to fingertips. In the morning, I related this to my mother, who chuckled and said it was probably a honey bear. Could have been a very young Sabe. Our second tour at Camp Lejeune was during the early 60s, right about the time of Kennedy's Bay of Pigs debacle and the Cuban Missile Crisis. I spent my weekend squirrel and rabbit hunting all over the base, but had no further incidents. A great place to be as a teenager who loves the outdoors. Thanks again for your efforts. For the people, I've got your 6. Signed, Steve Richards. And thank you, my brother. I got your 6 too. We all have each other's, right? It's endless. God, I got so many emails here, man. So many emails. All right, one more. Only because it's titled Continued, and it's not that long. Hi, Steve. Long-time listener, watcher of your channel. Appreciate your content and your efforts to get the truth out to everyone. I believe I had 2 encounters. A scream/yell that made me relieve myself involuntarily. Okay, get that, you guys. A sound made this guy piss himself. That's how significant these scream yells are. I have walked in a hunted deer, whitetail, elk, mushrooms, chopped wood for personal use all over the US of A. First off, as I mentioned before, I was in northern Idaho talking to a neighbor, which I did once in a while when behind us from the mountain came a yell that I've never heard like or since. Number two, I was looking for antlers again in northern Idaho when I entered a forest I was familiar with. And I think I woke this thing up as it stood quickly and moved across an area about a football field and a half width wide quicker than any human. Sorry for the interruption. Second encounter. I was looking for antler sheds with my father-in-law. He found the left and we were looking for the other. I walked across a brightly lit field to a place I hunted and just communed with nature. A patch of woods about the width of a football field and a half. I jumped across the stream, swollen from the melting snow. My landing must have startled or woken it. It jumped up, strode across the distance to me. It jumped up and strode across the distance to me aggressively. The next thing you know, I'm running across the field as fast as I could. I ran the wrong way. I came to a very tall fence that I couldn't climb. I looked back to see if it was chasing me, and it was just standing at the edge of the forest. Saw I wasn't coming back, turned and disappeared into the forest. The thing, its face was so human-like that it, along with the fact I encountered one of these mythical beasts, messed with my perception of reality big time. It took me the last decade to reconcile what I saw, and I was a believer. Now I'm a knower. This is in northern Idaho. Thanks for listening. Always a fan. Oh, I get it. I get it, man. Everything. Yeah. It's a different club to be a member of, right? It's a different club to be a member of, because if you have it in you to be able to think rationally, make common sense, and think for yourself, it trashes everything that we've been taught, right? But if you can't think for yourself, I think, then you just end up either blocking everything out, pretending it didn't happen, continue window looking, or create a Bigfoot researcher group and keep going in a tight little circle around that one item, right? I know I might be sounding like a bit of a prick because I keep saying that, but I consider that an easy example of what the main problem is with the majority of the people. They just cannot accept the fact that this one little topic leads to much, much more. How in the hell do people sit and listen and observe the testimonies of hundreds of thousands of people globally and still just sit there and gaze and drool, or dedicate their entire life to thinking they need to prove to the world this one item exists and is fact, which has been done so easily already, and so many times so easily. It's frustrating, man. It's frustrating trying to enlighten people and just slap them in the face with some kind of common sense and reality and hope they're going to eat it up and use it to benefit themselves. But so many people just can't do it. And I don't know why. I don't know how. I do not know how us as a race have been so easily conditioned to be so frickin' stupid. Right? It's frustrating. It's frustrating, but at least I guess when a good thing is I know my voice is being heard. Currently, combined views into my two YouTube channels is first time busted 8 million views in just over 3 weeks in Clamming. So people are interested in hearing other people talk, thank God. And I'm the messenger. I got no problems with it. I do not fear. I have zero respect for the criminals in government. I don't have too much respect for the so-called education system, because that's what it is. There's no real helpful knowledge in there for us, only to keep us in line, right? Prove me wrong. But anyway, I gotta get my ass in gear. I gotta be productive around here, because I'm gonna go become a half-wild bushman again soon. I can't wait. That was what makes my soul smile. That's just what might enable my soul to carry on out of this meat vessel and go on to the next level. Who knows, one day. I don't know when this ride's going to come to an end, but at least at least while I was on this ride, I put up a good solid effort to expose the lying sleazy pricks, help people get shit off their chest, and hopefully reconnect with the natural world and not be scared, right? We cannot be scared. Here I go.